Hi, my name is Rome and welcome back to Start Pages. Today I'm going to be reviewing The Buffalo Hunter by Stephen Graham Jones. So I got an arc of this from NetGalley and I was very excited because Stephen Graham Jones is a very hyped author and I really want to read The Only Good Indians. That's the one I've been hearing about for years, right? So I saw this and I was like, you know what, why not? And if I like it, then I'll go and look at his backlist. I gave this one 3.5 stars. So let me read the synopsis before I get into the review. It says Etsy Buchanan, I don't know, it's a French name. I only barely passed French, so let's not talk about that. So I'm going to say it's Buchanan. Yeah, is an academic who needs to get published. So in a journal written in 1912 by Arthur Buchanan, the Lutheran pastor and her grandfather is discovered within a wall during renovations, she sees her chance. She can uncover the lost secrets of her family and get tenure. As she researches, she comes to learn of her grandfather and a Blackfeet called Gustav, who came to Arthur to share the story of his extraordinary life. The journal details a slow massacre, a chain of events charting the history of Montana State as it formed, a cycle of violence that leads all the way back to the 217 Blackfeet murdered in the snow. A blood-soaked and unflinching saga of the violence of colonial America, a revenge story like no other, and the chilling reinvention of vampire lore from the master of horror. So as I said, I gave this one 3.5 stars. It was going to be 4 stars, or even 4.5 stars, up until we'll get there. It took a few chapters for me to get into this book, mostly because of the writing style, though there was another reason that I will get into later. So the sentence structure, it was a bit odd, and it can take some getting used to, not just for me. I feel like other readers might have a problem jumping into this book based on the writing style and how the sentences were constructed. For most of the book, the writing can be attributed to the historical setting and the writing style that was common in those times. But even in chapters from Etsy's point of view, which are set in 2012, it was written in the same way. So I didn't understand why Stephen Graham Jones chose to write like that. I don't know if that's how he always writes, but I wasn't a fan. I'm not gonna make a big deal out of it, but it just wasn't my cup of tea. I got used to it after a while, and as I said, I do think it's something that could turn other readers off from the very beginning. However, even though I wasn't a fan of the writing style specifically, I do think Stephen Graham Jones is a very skilled writer. So the Buffalo Hunter showcased his talent for writing characters so brilliantly that they were able to evoke very visceral feelings for readers, probably in general, but specifically for me, because this is my review and I'm the one who read it. So the absolute rage I felt when I was reading Arthur Buchanan's journal entries, that racist piece of shit had my hatred from his introduction all the way up until the end. I was wishing so much pain. Like anything that could have gone wrong in that man's life, I was hoping it would. So the cast of characters and their introductions were woven throughout the story seamlessly, and each character, no matter the length of the time we saw them on page, felt very intrinsic to the story, right? So his writing ability also carries over to the setting and the descriptive elements in the book. The narration from every single character in this book painted such a vivid imagery. Not only Gustav's narration, but also Arthur's and Etsy's writing. Overall, every aspect of the author's writing style led to an immersive reading experience, except for the sentence structure, because sometimes I have to stop and wonder what this man is talking about, but it's fine. Unfortunately, Etsy's character, I could not stand that bitch. Her voice was absolutely insufferable, and this is the thing that I was talking about that took me a while to get into this book, because we start off with her POV and then we switch over to Arthur, and then in the end of the book it's entirely her POV, like in the last 5-6 chapters. I don't remember because I just wanted it to be finished. Yeah, so her voice was so irksome, and while I do acknowledge that her presence in the book allowed for some scenes that added to the story and the characterization of Gustav, we spent too long with that girl. She was not that important. We didn't need to hear every little thing she was saying. We never need to see all of that. Like, even some scenes where it's like it's adding to Gustav's character, it never necessary. The book could have been ended. I don't think it was necessary. Also, not only was her narrative voice annoying, but her POV, like the writing of her POV itself, was a bit nonsensical. And by that, I mean, Arthur's POV was him writing in the journal. her POV was her typing up in some Word document. And because of that, her thoughts, or the way she was narrating her thoughts, it didn't make any sense because she was supposed to be typing for majority of the chapters, and then there were a couple scenes where she was speaking into a digital recorder, but when she was typing, she was talking to herself and adding like vocal tics into the Word document, and it never make any sense. Nobody is sitting down typing out that. Nobody is doing that, and it took me out of the story. But overall, I enjoyed this novel, and it's a book. And when I say I enjoyed it, I don't mean like I was giggling, kicking my feet, kiki, because the book deals with some very, very difficult topics, and you're very immersed in the tragedy that's happening in this book. So I don't know if enjoyed is the right word, but I don't know how else to explain it, because the book was great. It was amazing. So it's not a light-hearted read, but I had an amazing reading experience, right? So, trigger warnings for the Buffalo Hunter Hunter. There's racism, there's genocidal massacres, blood, violence, rape, death, child death, animal death, murder, fire, gore, grief, body mutilation, and bodily injury. There's probably some more, but those about cover the general. Like, if you know something else is probably going to fall under those. It's like going to be a subtopic, a sub trigger warning that falls under those main trigger warnings. But yeah, if the trigger warnings are not a huge turn off for you, or if it's something that's not going to be disastrous for you, I recommend reading The Buffalo Hunter Hunter. I liked it. It's just Etsy. Like, I couldn't do it. Anyway, regarding liking, commenting, and subscribing, do what you want. Bye.